if you look for my YouTube channel, you'll find it. If you look for my Facebook page, it's there as well. Please go there, just follow, and we have some insights and we have discussions that are coming up. You're not going to miss out in what I'll be discussing. So the issues that I'm going to discuss, they're mainly, those issues that I know could be concerning my fellow compatriots when they want to migrate to countries like Ireland. And I'll talk mainly about Ireland because I will be having a bit of experience of how the things are done within that jurisdiction. So this is a build-up video from the one that I did initially about migrating from red-listed zones to Ireland or UK in particular, but I'll mainly dwell on Ireland because I know the systems there, and I know some of the things that happen within Ireland. So I want us to understand this WHO red list in detail. So countries like Zimbabwe, they are under the red list. And when it's said that a country is under the red list zone, these comprise of those countries that have critical shortage of healthcare workers. And these countries, they are prioritized by a World Health Organization to say high-income nations, including Ireland, may not recruit or may not actively recruit healthcare workers from such countries because they'll be saying they also have shortage. So you can't actively recruit. If you actively recruit, it means you are depleting them whilst they are also in need of that workforce. So it's all like politics in play to say, yes, you can't recruit from us as we are also having shortages, but you are now using the advantage of saying you have the money to recruit. So like I said, the list is intended to prevent active recruitment. So there is no active recruitment at the moment to say there's a company that is going to flight an advert and say we are going to recruit from Zimbabwe. But does that stop people from migrating to Ireland? No. Okay. So Ireland, it complies with WHO guidelines, and it is now avoiding recruiting healthcare workers directly from those zones. So it means that these restrictions on active recruitment, they are just mimicking that active recruitment which was being done by the agents, because previously you would realize that there were agents that were flighting adverts to say we are going to be recruiting from Zimbabwe, we are recruiting from Zambia, Botswana, Swaziland, any other country. So they were targeting those countries because they knew that the salaries that people maybe are getting from those countries, they are low than the salaries that will be offered by the incumbent. So it was easy for them to get people to be employed within that jurisdiction. I'll tell you one thing. Nurses from local from Ireland, some of them they are going to United States of America, some of them they are going to Canada, some of them they are also migrating to Australia. So this issue of migration is not only affecting Africa, it's also affecting countries like Ireland, even the UK. You would find that in one local facility you can get not a significant number of Irish people. You can get maybe four of them or five out of maybe 15 Indians and few Zimbabweans or few from countries like Philippines. So now we are going to talk about the exceptions that could occur, or exceptions or things that one can do for them to be considered in getting a job maybe in Ireland whilst they are coming from a red listed zone country. So there are personal initiatives that one can do. It's mainly self-sponsorship now. So there are times I always see on Facebook, I always see on other various platforms where people would say, I have found an agent who is going to get me a job in Ireland. Guys, I don't know. I don't want to testify. I don't want to say it doesn't happen. It can happen, but it's up to you. But if your money is taken and you are swindled, it's up to you. But this information that I'm giving you is just, you can make an initiative as an individual to actually apply for these jobs. And if you apply for the jobs and they consider you, they can consider you for the interviews. The company is the one that is employing you. But one thing that I want to tell you about Ireland, even during the time of agents, when the agents were still actively recruiting, Ireland does not recruit as fast as you would think. It depends with the time. It depends with the period when they are recruiting. So it can take you more than the time that you are thinking of. So do not resign and say, I'm going to Ireland tomorrow. It's never like that. Nurses, doctors, physiotherapists, and all those people, they know, those who have migrated to Ireland, that it's not for the faint-hearted, because they don't do their paperwork as you would wish yourself to say, if I study today, I'll go tomorrow, right? So the personal initiatives are like this. You would find that you can apply directly to these hospitals, for example, St. James Hospital, St. John's, Limerick Hospital, all other hospitals that are all over Cork University. If you see an advert, you can apply and say, I am looking for a job. However, I will mention some of the things when we are now finishing this video, especially for those who are under the critical skills employment, like the nurses, the social workers. I'll mention some of these things as we'll be moving on. Then there are also other channels that could be done, like for example, you have already migrated and you're outside your home country, you're outside Zimbabwe, and you are in a non-red listed zone, but you still remain registered maybe in your country of origin, for example, Zimbabwe or Zambia. You may have more flexibility in applying for jobs in Ireland. For example, let's say you are in Swaziland, you are already working in Swaziland, or you are working in Namibia. It could be easier for you to manipulate the system, to maneuver yourself and end up being in Ireland. One thing that could be done, especially for nurses, you are working outside, maybe in South Africa, you want to move, you are working in Swaziland, you are registered there. You can even apply to NMBI to say, now I am working in Namibia for the past maybe 5 years, 6 to 10 years, and we know that the only issue that may stop you from migrating will be the verification letter that the government is not issuing. Maybe instantly, maybe they are taking their time. I don't know what they are doing now, but I often hear people saying the verification is not coming out. So what you could do is you could just write and maybe go to a solicitor. You get it stamped that you are still waiting for a verification, but you are in good standing in the country in the country where you are operating from, and then you stand a chance for you to be registered with NMBI. Then there are some roles. There are international workforce policies that are there. Some roles there are not directly related to healthcare delivery. They may be less impacted by these restrictions, and they allow for potential employment in administrative support or research positions within healthcare settings. Those people may not be impacted by the red list zones, right? So there are issues to do with visa and work permit considerations. Let's say you are directly offered a position. You need to apply for a visa and work permit, and the type of visa and the process it involves depends on the job you are offered and the qualifications that you possess yourself as an individual. For example, you have been offered a position maybe in the industries, you're an engineer, you're a surveyor, any other profession that you can think of which is not maybe in a healthcare setting. Then healthcare workers, they may be eligible for critical skills or general work permit, but this will depend on specific circumstances and nature of the job offer. So for healthcare workers, for nurses, for example, when they are done with the RSI Aptitude exam and they get employment with the hospital, when they come in, they are coming in with a visa, like a student visa, where they are writing the exam. And then when they are done, the hospital is now responsible to make sure that you get your critical skills work permit, and then now you get your general work permit, which is a G1, but you'll be under critical skills, and then you'll be moving on. So other alternatives that one can take, education and training. Some individuals, they can opt to further their education in Ireland, after which they may be eligible to work. For example, you are completing a degree in nursing or medicine in Ireland, or you have studied your degree maybe somewhere else and you want to complete it in Ireland. Ireland could offer you a pathway to employment it's not always 100% that if you come on a scholarship, you may end up being employed. But at times it can happen that they can offer you a pathway to employment. Then family reunification. This is very common. If you have a close family member like who is legally residing in Ireland, they may provide another route for entering the country and subsequently seeking employment. Like for example, you are coming in and you have stated on a visa that you are going to come and you'll be staying with your brother, you'll be staying with your sister, something like that. Of course, I haven't explored that avenue, but I know people, they are using it. And then the spousal one, where one will be following the wife, one will be following the husband, and they can come in as a family, right? And there are also legal and ethical considerations to take into place. You should ensure that your application for employment, it does not contravene the ethical recruitment practices outlined by World Health Organization. So your home country mainly is the one that gives you the jurisdiction of whatever that you are supposed to be getting. So you will need to engage like the professional bodies, for example, the NMBI, the Nursing and Midwifery Board of Ireland. It really supports international healthcare workers. Like for example, you are a nurse. You are supposed to get into their system first before you consider looking for an employment. So this is what I said I was going to talk about, especially for the nurses. So just one thing that you have to do right now is just to go on the NMBI website, log in, put in your credentials, start following the prompts, upload all the documents that they require from there, and then you wait. Of course, there is a fee that is charged for you to do that, for you to do all that process, and then you wait for your decision later. Now, since the verification will be like an issue, you can actually push and then push maybe to have maybe a solicitor to say you are still waiting for your verification or for you to be verified, so you would want to proceed for the exam. It will be easier for you after you pass an examination like the RSI Aptitude, where you have to pass those 14 stations. It will be easier for you to secure a job after you have your PIN, because there is no restriction. You'll be able to get a job. So now we want to talk about identifying the job opportunities. How do you identify? So like for example, they say you have to research the employers that you may get. Look for job openings. There are various websites, like for example, irishjobs.ie, there's an Indeed, healthcarejobs.ie, hse.ie, which is the health executive. They are very good places to start with for you to interact with the employers there to see what they require. And you also have to network with others. Like right now, I'm shooting this video, I'm talking to you. You can actually network with me. I will be able to discuss with you some of the issues. We have got various platforms that we discuss. For example, the WhatsApp platforms, the Ireland Online platform, Ireland Online extension. Those platforms, they are there. And we mainly discuss about, especially the nurses. They are the ones who have been joining those platforms, because we would really know what they will be requiring. And then after you have done that, you need to prepare your curriculum vitae, you need to prepare for your application. So your CV and your cover letter, they are very, very important. Make sure that your CV, it highlights your qualifications, experience, and skills. So as you are exploring these avenues, there's one thing that I want to tell you, ladies and gentlemen. If you're a professional somebody, it means that you know a lot of things, but there are those things that are peculiar to you, that you know that if you are given today to say, you have to perform this duty, you can perform it better than anybody else. They are supposed to be in your curriculum vitae, and those are the things that are supposed to catch the eye of the person who is going to be taking your CV. So your cover letter, it has to be specific to the job that you are actually applying, and explain why you are actually interested in the position and how your background makes you a suitable candidate for that position. And then qualifications recognition. You should ensure that your qualifications are recognized in Ireland. You may need to get your credentials verified or obtain an Irish equivalent if you are in healthcare field. If you are in the healthcare field, for example, I mentioned the nurses, I mentioned even doctors. This is typically through the bodies like NMBI, I mentioned this before, and the Medical Council of Ireland. So the NMBI, it's actually a process that you have to follow, and like I said, it's not for the faint-hearted, because you may expect that they are going to finish this process within 2 days, but remember, you are going to be following up the schools of training and all that kind of stuff for you to get the papers. Then they recognize those papers. At times they give you back the papers for you to redo them, because you wouldn't have met their requirements. So it is very important to pay attention to detail, right? Then we will talk about the application process. You have to apply online. You have to submit your application through the employer's website, like the websites that I've mentioned above, and then ensure that all the documents that they've asked from you, you have included them. So if you are applying, like I mentioned, that there are personal initiatives that you could have done yourself as an individual, you have to make sure that you mention it in your application that you're self-funded. You are funding yourself, and then they will be aware, and they will be aware that you are under the red list zone. But if you try to hide it that you are from a red list zone, they will see as if you want to try and swindle the system. So you just have to mention it that you are coming from a red listed zone, but your application is voluntary. You are applying voluntarily. You are not applying from active recruitment, right? Then we'll move on quickly to the interview process, right? Let's say you are shortlisted for these jobs, guys. It's not an emergency like to go for an interview. You actually be given time for you to prepare for the interview, right? So you have to prepare, and you also be prepared to discuss your experience. So you have to know your CVs in and out. When I'm saying CVs, it means that every CV, like every job, it must be having its own CV. It will never be the same, right? Your qualifications, they are supposed to be there. Those ones, they remain because you possess them and you are supposed to mention them. And you are supposed to be able to say, if you're asked a question which relates to the qualification that you have to articulate, right? Then you have to explain, why do you want to work in Ireland? This question is very, very important. You have to explain, you have to express yourself, and also make sure that you give a credit where it deserves, like to say, I've searched, on the internet, I've realized that, the salaries in Ireland, they're very competitive in the world. And if you look in terms of peace, there's security, all that kind of stuff. Try to praise where you are going to make sure that they'll say, okay, this person is actually well researched, right? Like I mentioned, the work permit and the visa application initially, you would have been given a job offer. Let's say, depending on the role, you may be applying for critical skills or general employment permit. So the critical skills employment, like I will explain this, critical skills employment permit, it is actually for highly skilled roles such as doctors, nurses, or specialists. Then there's a general employment permit, and this is given for other roles that may not qualify under the critical skills category. So in the next video, I'll also show those jobs that are under the critical skills list. So the visa application, usually it's prompted from where you're coming, and after securing the permit, you have to apply for employment visa through the Irish Naturalization and Immigration Service, which they call the INIS. If you go on the website, on internet, on Google, you actually see that. And then the visa application, it will require your job offer letter, the offer letter that you would have been given, the work permit, and other supporting documents. And you have to make sure that you don't miss any document, because this is where the delays will come. Because they may not grant you the visa if your documents are not proper. Now that you've applied for visa, you have to prepare for relocation. Guys, I want to tell you one thing. Accommodation in Ireland, it's not like something that you just wake up in the morning and say, I'm now going to Ireland. Accommodation is a problem. You have to start searching for housing options that you can get in Ireland. Once your visa has been approved, you can use websites like Daft or rent.ie, but when you are outside the country, it's not easy to do that. So it's very important to link up with others that have already migrated, so that they can be looking up the accommodation for you while they are in island location. I tell you, even myself here, if I go on Daft, I go on rent.ie, it's not easy to get a house. It's not easy to get an appointment to go and view the house. And also, the accommodation is not as cheap as one would think. It is actually very expensive. And it's one thing that one has to look at when they are getting a job. You have to match your salary with the accommodation. I will tell you, like, for example, if you are going for a 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom house, for example, in areas like Dublin, it's very expensive. There is no way you are going to get rent which is less 1,000 euros. You can get a 2-bedroom apartment going up to 1,200 up to 1,500 euros per month. And if you are looking for big houses, the 3-4 bedroom houses, you can even pay up to 2,000 euros per month. So look at what the job will be offering you, because at times it's not all about migrating, but it's about balancing whether you are balancing the salary that you are getting, and you'll be able to save as well for your upkeep, right? So you need to book your flights, and when you are booking the flights, please ensure that you use the flight websites, like, you know, we've got our own bus like that. We often call it the bus, the Ethiopian Airlines, and also the Qatar one. So you would find that in terms of competitiveness, of course, the Ethiopian, I'm not advertising them, but the Ethiopian might look cheaper, but you have to research and understand the way the flights will be going, because if you go to some countries, some of them, they are a bit hostile. I will not mention the names here, but there are some that are a bit hostile when you are traveling, and you wouldn't like it, you know, the searches and whatsoever. Of course, you don't need to carry anything that is not required in the plane. So now you have to settle. Now when you arrive in Ireland, you register with the local authorities like the GADA-E, where like the Ghana National Immigration Bureau. I'm now saying GADA-E. They require a GNIB. Then the GADA-E, maybe if the company requires a verification, that's when they are going to refer you to that. And you also need to get your personal public service number, which is your PPS number, which will be needed for accessing public services and paying taxes. And for those who are in Ireland, maybe they are just coming in, please, when you travel back to Zimbabwe, do not forget to carry your GNIB card, because that's your passport for you to come back. So now the thing is, guys, you just have to seek assistance at times. Consider seeking advice, like, you know, from people who specialize in international placements, legal advisors, if you are faced with any situations, and to join support networks, engage with the expatriate communities or professional associations in Ireland for additional support during your transition, because it's not always easy as we would think. And then by following these steps and managing the application process, you can actually increase your chances of successfully securing employment in Ireland. So these are just snippets that I wanted to share with you, ladies and gentlemen, on the things that you may need to be on the lookout. And for those who are saying we've got agents that are offering us employment, good luck. But for now, I want to tell you, Zimbabwe, Zambia, they are under the red list zone, so it has to be your own initiative for you to be able to migrate to Ireland. And for those who are still very young, you can also apply for scholarships, apply to universities, try to go to school with them, and see what could happen. And then for those who are coming as nurses, please prepare. I've seen people going back to Zimbabwe just after failing RSI Aptitude, of which is something that is there on the website. You need to read, you need to practice. And reading alone is not enough. You may think that you know how to do a dressing, but I want to tell you one thing. When you are being tested, they are testing to see whether you are conforming to the standards that they want, or you are able to adjust to their standards that they want, because they require quality. So they are going to test you on 14 stations, and I tell you, the exam, it's easy, but it's taxing in terms of time. If you don't practice enough, you are bound to fail. I've seen people failing. And if you have failed, like for example, you failed adaptation, please do not tire. Be quick to register for the RSI exam and prepare. Prepare. I repeat this, prepare yourself. It's different from someone who is coming in, like for general work permit. They are not required to write an exam. But if you are required to write an exam for any job that you have applied for, please prepare enough so that you don't get that disappointment of failing. And then after failing, like for example, we talked about the personal initiatives here, where we said you have made your own initiative to apply to these jobs, and then you pay 2,800 euro for the exam and you come to fail. I don't think even those who will be assisting you will be very happy with that. Even myself, I won't be very happy with that. Then there are some who can come for adaptation. They tend to relax, to say, oh, we are going for adaptation, so there's no need for RCSI. I tell you, better do the RCSI. Better do the RCSI and you go for your adaptation when you have knowledge of some of the things that are required within those institutions. So my apologies, guys. I tend to divert more to the areas that I have a bit of knowledge on, but to tell the truth, this is what is just required, and it can be done. When others did it, you can also do it too. So at times there are some people who can scam you simply because of your desperation. Do not show too much desperation on these things. Rather do your due diligence. And if you ask me, even in the comment section, I'll be able to post some of the links that you may need to use. For those like in the nursing profession, I can guide you, I can join you in those groups. If I get the chance, I'll be able to respond to those questions. And there are also other people who are there to assist as well. And this is merely free of charge. What you just need to do, just subscribe, follow, comment, and leave the notification button on, so that if I upload any video which may entice you, you'll be free to watch and get free guidance of some of these things that you would require. Thank you, and see you in the next video.